The government of Bolivia frustrated an attempt at coup d'etat following the mobilization of army units in the capital to overthrow the President Luis Arce. In Palestine, the Israeli siege on Gaza continues. Occupation forces killed at least 28 Palestinians in the last hours as the humanitarian crisis deteriorates by the day. And in Kenya, President William Ruto said he will not sign the finance bill that led to massive protests that ended with hundreds detained and at least 20 killed. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The government of Bolivia frustrated an attempted coup d'etat following the irregular mobilization of army units in the capital to overthrow the president Luis Arce. The democratic order has been restored after hours of tension, include the presence of military units at the Murillo Square and even army authorities led by General Juan José Zúñiga, who tried to storm the government house. However, the attempt has failed, as President Arce addressed the nation, named new military authorities who ordered all mobilized units to retreat from the square that was filled with the Bolivian people cheering with the reestablishment of democracy. As the coup was in progress, Bolivian President Luis Arce called the people of Bolivia to defend democracy and reiterated that Bolivians could not allow another coup.
We cannot allow that once again a coup attempt is developing. We would like to ask you to demand to defend democracy, and we are here in Casa Grande with all the organizations, social organizations. We salute all the social organizations and we invite them cordially to again show the road to democracy to the Bolivian people. Long live the Bolivian people. Long live democracy.
Let's review some of the main reactions. The former president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, called for a national mobilization in defense of democracy and in rejection of the recent attempted coup d'etat against President Luis Arce. Through a post on the social network X, the former Bolivian president said, "We call for a national mobilization to defend democracy against the coup d'etat that is being brought at the head of the General Zúñiga. We declare an indefinite general strike and road blockade. We will not allow the armed forces to violate democracy and intimidate the people." In turn, the former Bolivian president, in another post, said, "We denounce that a group of the Cachayapata Special Regiment, Méndez Arcos, took over Plaza Murillo with snipers. This seems to indicate that they prepared the coup d'etat in advance. I ask the people with a democratic vocation to defend the homeland from some military groups that act against democracy and the people." The Vice President of Bolivia, David Choquehuanca, also denounced before the international community the attempted coup d'etat that was brewing in the country against the government of Luis Arce. Through a post on the social network X, the Bolivian Vice President said, "We denounce to the international community that in Bolivia there is a coup d'etat against our democratically elected government." From Mexico, the president-elect posted on her X account, Claudia Sheinbaum, "The uprising of some units of the Bolivian armed forces is an attack against democracy. We strongly condemned these events. Our unconditional support to President Luis Arce and his people, our support for the position of the government of Mexico." Also from Latin America, the Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel posted on his X account, "The outrage against democracy and the Bolivian people shown in the images from internal media this afternoon in Bolivia is outrageous. We repudiate the attempted coup d'etat underway and extend all the solidarity of the Cuban government and people to brother Luis Arce." On his X account, Cuba's Minister of Foreign Affairs Bruno Rodriguez expressed, irregular mobilizations of some units of the Bolivian army are very worrying. We strongly reject these acts and express our solidarity with the President Luis Arce. Latin America and the Caribbean is a peace zone. The president of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, also reacted to the coup attempt. On her X account, Xiomara Castro said, I urgently called on the presidents of the member countries of CELAC to condemn the fascism that today attacks democracy in Bolivia and demand full respect for civil power and the constitution. The military forces have once again carried out a criminal coup d'etat. We express our unconditional support to the broader people of Bolivia, to the president Luis Alberto Arce and Evo Morales. Venezuela also stood for Bolivia. President Nicolás Maduro addressed the attempted coup d'etat in which he called on the Bolivian people to defend democracy.
We call on the people of Bolivia to defend their democracy, their constitution, and their president Ruto Arce. To the people of Bolivia, all the support of the people of Simón Bolívar. No to fascism, no to the coup. Do you realize how important it is to defend peace, your own path, and independence from other countries? We know that the Bolivian people, like the Venezuelan people at the time, will know how to act and will have the support of all of Latin America, the Caribbean, and the world on their side. And they will have on their side the victory of democracy and peace. Enough of coups d'etat, of genocide, of massacres against the peoples of Latin America. In the 21st century, are they going to impose a coup d'etat? What constitution is that in? Who endorses, who promotes, who supports this coup d'etat? From Venezuela we reject it and we declare ourselves in emergency and in permanent action in support of the people of Bolivia and President Ruto Arce.
And from Brazil, President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva expressed his support to democracy.
We are sure of our position and that I'm a lover of democracy. I want democracy to prevail in Latin America as it never has before.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Well, this is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. As Venezuela and China celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations, the nations' proved bilateral cooperation in various areas has achieved important feats at the academic level with the training and exchange of professionals. Let's see more details in the following brief.
Thousands of Venezuelan professionals are specializing in Chinese universities. This exchange occurs thanks to the ties of friendship that unite both nations, which in June will celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations.
My name is Aymara Herdel. I am the director of the Venezuelan Center for Studies on China and the Center for a Community of a Shared Future between China and Venezuela. Both are research centers dedicated to the study of bilateral relations between the People's Republic of China and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. My particular relationship with China started progressively. I began to study Chinese as a foreign language, and later I applied for a scholarship offered by the Chinese government, and I obtained a scholarship to study for a master's degree. We have been developing an editorial project for 4 years now, publishing different works related to the relations between China and Latin America or China and Venezuela.
Aymara, as well as thousands of other Venezuelans, recognize China as one of the most important allies in Latin America and the Caribbean, mainly in Venezuela, where energy, aeronautical, scientific, technological, and infrastructure cooperation projects are being conducted.
I deem that understanding China is fundamental in this century, and it is crucial to boost the development and cooperation of our countries. It is a strategic partner. China and Venezuela have an all-weather and foolproof partnership, and that implies, from a political point of view, a very deep sisterhood and cooperation in different sectors. Countries of the region are somehow described by China as developing countries, but nowadays China identifies itself as a developing country too. This fact somehow facilitated to boost cooperation mechanisms such as South-South cooperation. In this regard, there are common struggles that both nations are somehow involved in. For example, the fight against poverty, and this is a battle that Latin American countries are currently fighting off. So China sees us as allied countries. With which it can cooperate jointly and understands that the problems and future welfare of humanity depends on the fact that the southern countries, or the nations that are called developing countries, can solve their problems of water access, can solve their problems of getting access to quality education. My expectations for the future relation between China and Venezuela is the strengthening of cooperation in areas that are strategic for national development, in the case of Venezuela. So in that sense, I think that cooperation in infrastructure is pivotal. My main wish is that the relations between both countries continues to be a harmonious one. The concept of harmony in Chinese culture is very noteworthy because it somehow materializes a long and lasting friendship. I think that it is one of the main bases of the relation or the bond that unites both countries. On the other hand, I deem the relation not only must be consolidated at a high level, but also it must be consolidated between the peoples. Brotherhood between peoples is very crucial to make this relation fruitful, solid, and lasting.
Beyond the diplomatic relations between the governments of China and Venezuela, the ties between the two nations are considered an all-weather and foolproof friendship.
In Ecuador on Tuesday, at the Northern Judicial Center in Quito, a trial set off to prosecute the 5 defendants charged with the assassination of journalist and former legislator Fernando Villavicencio. In life, Villavicencio used to face life threats due to his work, as he disclosed corruption and links between organized crime and politicians. In August 2023, he was shot dead when leaving a campaign meeting. 1 hitman died at the crime scene and 7 more were murdered while on precautionary prison. 2 of the remaining accused, including Laura Castillo, have been revealed by prosecutors as suspected leaders of Los Lobos gang. In this regard, both Castillo's lawyer and the attorney for Fernando's daughter, Ricardo Vanegas, shared their opinion on the case. On Wednesday, at least 28 Palestinians were killed in Israeli shelling of homes in the Gaza Strip as the humanitarian crisis deteriorates day by day. In this context, according to civil defense rescue teams, at least 13 bodies were recovered from the rubble after an Israeli attack on a house belonging to the Al-Dali family in the Al-Darash neighborhood, while another 15 Gazans were also killed in another attack on the house of the Abu Awad family in the northern Gaza Strip. Since the beginning of its genocidal war, Israel has killed 37,658 Palestinians, most of them children and women, while more than 10,000 people are missing. As the Israeli forces continue to pound Gaza, Palestinians across the world join the resistance from afar. That is the story of Samar and Mote, young Palestinians who are studying medicine in Cuba while joining the international claim to stop the genocide. Let's see.
The brutal impact of the genocidal war in Gaza is felt. Dozens of young Palestinians studying medicine on the island follow the Israeli siege from afar. Samar is 21 years old. In Havana, she found the possibility of fulfilling her dream of studying medicine. However, the distance from her loved ones in this context is very difficult to bear.
It is easier for me to be with them than to wonder. What are they drinking? What are they eating? Where are they sleeping? Wondering if they are okay.
In this way, Palestinian students in Cuba follow the atrocious attacks by the State of Israel on their homes. Moti is from Rafah, the southern Gaza city that the Zionist army decided to invade in May, despite the alarms of the international community and the warnings of the highest court of the United Nations.
In the first days of that month, my grandparents' house was bombed, my cousins died, 3 of my uncles, an aunt, and my grandmother died, all from my mother's side of the family.